going to follow the rules now any more than he's been following them. So I'm not going to stop talking, no matter how many lawsuits stores want to file against me, because I speak the truth all over the state. They can file as many slap suits as they'd like to. I'm going to keep talking about these businesses. I'm going to keep talking about these bans. I'm asking you, I'm begging you as another lawmaker, please do not pass this language. It is really detrimental to what we have started and what we are trying to accomplish. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, that was the only hand we had raised on Zoom. We do have another attendee, but she hasn't raised her hand.
Okay, any questions from the commission or comments? Commissioner Smith.
Tracy, when we were looking at this the first time, did you reach out to the Humane Society to see if they would give any input on this, or did we just look at because I remember the first workshop session we had, it seemed to be guided by the puppy stores.
We did reach out to Pinellas County Animal Services, Pinellas County SPCA. We didn't reach out to the Florida Humane Society or the National U.S. Humane Society.
Out of curiosity, why?
Some of those questions I think would probably have to be asked to legal, who certainly helped us draft this part of the language of the ordinance. I know that we did research it. I have a lot of documents from the U.S. Humane Society, and certainly they have a strong opinion on this, as we've heard tonight. I've gotten an email, and I think most of you had gotten it in the last week or so, from Humane Society about their concerns about the ordinance language as written.
Do they have valid points?
Certainly, I think that's an interpretation up to the commissioners and the citizens of Largo. I don't think anybody wants the animals that are possibly being sold from puppy mills. Don't know if these stores currently are purchasing. They're both saying they're not. That's the whole reason for the transparency, to try to get a better understanding of where these animals are coming from, when they're coming in, how they're being looked at. And I agree that when we first started this thing, almost it's been a year now, we've had multiple workshops and open forums on this, that an option would be to do nothing. We currently have nothing on the books right now that regulates this at all. And I believe that, and I think the commission has debated this at length, that we had the option of going for a full ban. And the commission had looked at that and determined that they felt that the transparency was the best first step. So I think that that's where we're at today, unless the commission gives us other direction.
Am I correct that Hillsborough kind of did this a little bit and then changed over after they realized it wasn't working?
They did do that. That is correct. I think that they started with the transparency. Unfortunately, it's my understanding that they actually had a puppy mill in Hillsborough County that unfortunately was a frequent flyer with their animal services organization over there. Right after they passed the transparency, this organization had a very large-scale violation where I think the owner was arrested, and they had to rescue about 350 animals or so. And that certainly weighed heavy on the Hillsborough County commissioners, who felt that it was appropriate to change their ordinance to a full ban, which they did do.
And they changed it over to an adoption model, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think that just went into effect here in the last couple of weeks. They gave them, I think, 1 year for the active stores to come into compliance.
Am I correct? Also, Polk followed the same?
I'm not sure about Polk, sir.
What is, maybe someone who spoke can answer this, maybe Humane Society or one of the pet stores. What is a responsible breeder?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Okay, you. What is a responsible breeder, if possible? Yes.
I think a responsible, let me also just go on the record really quick.
You have to come up to the...
Sorry.
Mr. Cohen, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to go on the record really quick for people who are Zooming. I never, ever said I only buy hobby breeders. I do buy USDA, and I buy some of the best ones in the country. But hobby breeders are really small breeders. They only have 5 females. So it's a different ballgame. That's what I was trying to say. I don't want to be misunderstood. A good breeder is a breeder who's, 1, not going to overbreed a female. 2, make sure that these puppies are socialized, that the parents are socialized, and retires that female at a proper age. And correct regulation It really is not going to do, unfortunately, anything for the shelters because they're filled with pit bulls, and that's a different conversation that I'd love to have with anybody. But proper regulation would make sure that a female is retired after 3 litters, that a female is not bred into the ground, which hobby breeders don't do, and really good, responsible breeders don't do. Are there puppy mills out there? The answer is yes. And I think that what you guys are going to hear from anyone who's an animal rights activist, and by the way, so is she and so am I, but if you have blinders on, they're going to say that every pet shop buys from puppy mills. Guys, if we bought from puppy mills, we'd be out of business because our dogs would be riddled with defects because unfortunately they don't care about anything. They don't care about, the health of the parents, and of course you end up with bad dogs. So a responsible breeder, you're going to be able to tell through the lineage. When you see champions in bloodlines on a dog, which I would say 30 to 40% of my dogs have champions in their bloodlines, when you see something called an OFA certification from the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, does that mean a dog's not going to get hip dysplasia if the parents have been certified? No. But it means that the breeder took the time to go to the OFA and have those parents looked at. So, I think if you guys wanted to, or if anyone wanted to sit with one of us and talk about what makes a responsible breeder, we could really help you. But an all-out ban, I can promise you what will happen. She'll go out of business and so will I. And puppy mills they have the power, they have the money, and what they do is they go online, and they'll be selling to everybody in the country. They're already doing it. Look online, you'll see. So I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Smith, anything? We
One.
can always come back to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you. I have very serious reservations against this ordinance. I know that we've entered into it with a good heart. I think we need a lot more information. I'm going to make a few comments here. First of all, because legislation is pending in Tallahassee, it wouldn't be a terrible thing for us to just wait to see what comes out of the session, because it could have a great effect on what happens here in Largo anyhow. This ordinance, as it's written right now, I really do believe would actually lead to consumers getting the wrong impression from the store if there are notices that hang near the cages or are easily read that that these come from USDA licensed breeders, that the state licenses of the breeders are in force, and the consumer would think that they're getting a puppy from a responsible breeder, which in many cases may not be the case. So what we are actually doing is doing something that's contrary to our intention. To tell the stores, go ahead and post these things. Consumer comes in, buys a puppy for $1,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 and thinks that they're coming from a responsible breeder, when in actuality, it may actually be coming from a puppy mill, and that puppy could be leaving with serious illnesses, antibiotic resistance, sick, and I don't think we should be doing something like that. I'm not saying that any of the stores that are here in Largo are guilty of any of this. That's not my point. I would not say that either the two stores that are actively in Largo right now are doing this, but we're looking at an ordinance right now that will regulate any store that should happen to open inside of Largo. And we don't know what we might be opening the door to by passing an ordinance like this. Furthermore, we'd become an example to other cities that take a look at Largo and what Largo did, and that's a good thing, when in fact it's not a good thing. The example that Hillsborough corrected when it saw the huge mistake that it made was the result of a very similar ordinance to what we're considering right here. I just think that we ought to just put this thing to bed, wait to see what comes out of the legislature, and then give ourselves more time to look into this to get better information. If we do anything now, if we pass this ordinance as it is written right now, we're committing to something that we may come to terribly, terribly regret down the road. I think we ought to deny it, go back to the drawing board and hear from the other side, and then get the right information. In the meantime, see what happens up in Tallahassee. I could say more. I don't think I need to at this point, but I do want to point out that a lot of puppies that come out of these stores, not saying that these are the stores in Largo, but they come out of stores that do sell from puppy mills and all that, are coming out with transmissible bacterial infections that are making people sick now too. And we should note that Florida is the #1 state for complaints against pet stores that are selling retail pets. So with that, I'll be quiet. I may come back later, but I'll be quiet for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hulk.
Yes, is Michelle still with us?
Yes, I am.
Michelle, could you give us a little insight on what the bill is that you're taking to Tallahassee?
House Bill 4. If she's there, I want to say it's Broder that is sponsoring it in the Senate, and it's just a ban that bans the sales of dogs and cats in pet stores unless they come from reputable 501s. It's just a clean ban.
Okay, and are there ordinances in effect right now?
I don't know if this still would be for you, but for the rescues, are there ordinances for the rescues and how
Regulating rescues, that's not what the intent of the sales ban. This is a retail sales ban, so it deals primarily with brick and mortar or business tax receipt businesses.
All right. So
taking that question to, is there anybody that can answer that? Is there an ordinance or protocol for the rescues that they have to follow? 'Cause I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think rescues are the best thing that happened to a lot of dogs, but I do know an instance just recently from somebody I know that rescued a dog that came here from Louisiana after the hurricane, and this dog had like no records. She had her for 3 months and had to have her put down because the dog was very sick and not taken care of. And so, you know, when you get an older person that gets attached to a dog in 3 months, and then they go to the vet and say there's nothing they can do, and that was from a rescue. So I just, I mean, I understand that this ban, the ordinance we're talking about, but there is, as Commissioner Gerard said, there's so much more to this than just this. And we do have rescues here in Largo and the SPCA and the store. So I feel comfortable with waiting to find out what happens in Tallahassee with that bill, and I just feel like we really might need a lot more information about this before we pass it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robbins, Vice Mayor Robbins.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to state that I have no interest in waiting on what Tallahassee wants to do with anything. So let me just go ahead and get that out there. You know, they are not ever going to ask us what we would like to do here in this city, and I could give a damn what they want to do in Tallahassee. So I think when we're going to have a conversation about what we do in Largo, we should have a conversation here, and that decision should be made between us and the residents and the business owners in the city of Largo. So my question is for Alan. Alan, is there any way to pass an ordinance that would allow the two businesses that are in business selling puppies right now in the city of Largo to continue to stay in business and prohibit any new businesses from coming in and starting the similar type of business?
Yes, the simple answer is yes, we could do that. And in fact, if the commission wanted to look towards more of a prohibition, if you go, I know this was discussed back at one of the work sessions, we would be, there would be some legal issues with possibly closing down the existing businesses, so that would be a preferable way to proceed with a ban. And if I can, while I have the floor, just some of the comments that were made, want to remind the commission that in the city, so I understand what other counties have done, but under the county charter, the county here in Pinellas County has certain preemptive rights to regulate animals in Pinellas County. So what maybe Hillsborough County did or Polk County did may not be something we can do. We did run this ordinance by the county attorney's office and county animal control. And if we're going to revise what we do, we would have to run that ordinance by them as well to make sure that they're in agreement that we're implementing a regulation that we can enforce in Pinellas County. Because again, the cities are a little limited in what they can do compared to the county. And then also, if I'm sorry, Commissioner, but while I have the floor, so Commissioner Hulk, to answer your question, I pulled up the bill. It simply prohibits the sale of domestic dogs or cats at any pet store in the state of Florida. And it allows cities to be more restrictive, although I'm not exactly sure how you'd be much more restrictive than that. But that's what the statute or the proposed bill says right now, is just purely prohibits the sale of dogs and cats, domestic dogs and cats.
Thank you.
Okay.
So for some of you here, and I know I've mentioned this multiple times, but I did work in the pet industry for over, for about 20 years. So I think I'm coming from a space of knowledge about what happens and how their business operates. I had a conversation earlier today with Ms. Julian and my personal feelings as to her business model are that they're my personal feelings. I don't believe that a business or that should be a business model. That there are plenty of other options out there. You can go to the adoption model. You can go to straight pet supplies. But I will say this, that it is not my responsibility to shut a business down in the city of Largo. That is doing a legitimate business. It is, obviously we can have a different philosophical conversation about that, but I believe that they have a honest business. They are trying to do, obviously there's 6 or 7 employees here that work for them. I have zero interest in seeing any of these folks not have a job tomorrow. And that's exactly what would happen. I know that there's been some conversation about other, changing to other models. It's not, you can't take your business model and turn it around tomorrow. It's not that simple. Now, again, personally, I don't agree with the way that happens or with what they're doing. But again, that's my personal feelings towards that. I honestly believe that, there's some, call for that business to be here in Largo because they're surviving, so there's people here who want to do that, who want to purchase animals from her business, as well as the other one, obviously, if it's still in business. So I think the best thing that we could do would be to come back and Tracy, I'm sure this is exactly what you want to hear. But I think this is the best plan that we could do would be to come back, allow the 2 businesses that are in Largo to stay in Largo, to continue with their business model, and then don't allow anybody else to come in. That eliminates, ma'am, you know very well that in your city, you don't appreciate people having that interrupting. So I would appreciate it if you don't interrupt me. So I would say that the best course of action for the city of Largo, it would be to move forward with not allowing any more other businesses to come in to have that style of business, and to allow the 2 that are here to continue on with what they're doing. And that's my personal preference. Again, I'm sure that would have to bring this back another 2 or 3 times to have that conversation, but That's, I think, the most fair and just way we can move forward with this.
Can I
Thank you.
ask Commissioner a question?
Yeah, for Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah,
Yeah, Vice Mayor?
Vice Mayor, sorry.
I do the same.
It changes around so much. Okay, so I just want to make sure that this is what I'm getting from what you're saying. So basically, we're going to grandfather them in, set our ordinance. Those two stores are the only two stores we're going to have, which is fine. I totally agree with not wanting, I don't want to put anybody out of business, but making sure that they are following.
They would follow.
They will
yeah,
follow this ordinance.
That would be my intention, yes.
Okay.
I would say that they would be, I mean, they've worked well with us in
Right,
helping to
absolutely.
draft the ordinance that
Yes.
we have in front of us. All of us have had conversations with the other side, the Humane Society, the US, the SPCA. We've all had those conversations. And I think that with the ordinance that we have, we could continue with the businesses that are existing currently in the city of Largo. And then add on to that ordinance, just a prohibition on any new businesses coming in and having that basically banning the pet sale of commercially bred animals.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, I think that it's, with what Vice Mayor Robinson said, I think it's certainly possible to, if this is going to come back as a ban with allowance for the two businesses, with some new regulations, including what's here, it's certainly possible we could talk to Humane Society folks, SPCA folks, and say, how can, I met with somebody from the Humane Society earlier today, and I asked them a question, how do we get to the point where we can be assured that these puppies are not coming from puppy mills? If we can get an answer to that, that's what I would like to see in an ordinance, because I'm just as happy with rescue dogs as the next guy, but there's people in this community that would prefer to have a designer dog or a full breed dog or something that they might, they want to bring a puppy home to the kid for Christmas, and you can't always get the appropriate puppy or the puppy that some people want at a shelter, especially right now. I mean, an SPCA website, it said they had 4 dogs this morning for the whole county. So I understand, certainly I understand both sides of this issue, and I think that Commissioner Robinson's idea has some good merit, but I do think that we should certainly continue the conversation to improve the chances that even these pet stores, and I have no reason to believe that they don't get their pets from at least what they believe are reputable breeders, but if we can continue to work to assure that moving forward, I think that'd be a good thing. There was one thing that Mr. Cohen said that I had a question for, I'm not sure whether it's for Alan or not, but he said that it looks like this ordinance stops him from getting a pet from, or a puppy from a hobby breeder in the future. Is that correct, or? Because I don't think we ever.
I don't see anything in the ordinance that could be interpreted
that would keep them from, because if they're not USDA licensed. Right, so they could get them from USDA licensed breeder or a hobby breeder, is that correct?
Let me take another look.
Okay, thank you. Well, because I don't want to, from the conversation that I had with folks from the Humane Society today, hobby breeders are in general like very, very quality breeders, just like Mr. Cohen said. There are people that love their dog and breed a time or two a year. They might have 2 moms, whatever. They're doing it right. So I certainly want to stop pet stores from.
Mayor, I do think there is language that would limit them to a USDA breeding facility.
Okay, so we want to, I would be interested in changing that to allow them to, I mean, if they're buying it from a breeder that, we had an Australian Shepherd for 13 years that we bought from a farm in Land O'Lakes, and that he was a hobby breeder. He had a great working dog on the farm, And every couple years, for probably 7 years, he bred that dog and sold Australian Shepherd puppies. We went to the farm and got to see the dog work the farm, which is
Well,
what,
of course, that wouldn't be prohibited by the ordinance.
that's a hobby breeder, though. That's either.
Right, but you're buying directly.
Retail.
This would
Sorry?
only prohibit it.
No. But if that farmer wanted to sell to one of
pet
these
store.
pet stores, and then in turn sell a quality, whatever, I don't think we should be able to, we
Yeah,
should
staff
stop
would
it.
have to work on a definition of what is a hobby breeder so that we could incorporate that into the ordinance.
I think the county might already have that definition that we might be able to look at.
All right, and I also think there was just one mention earlier about the results of the Hillsborough County ordinance was awful. The Hillsborough County moved with a ban because of something awful that happened. That was no result of their initial ordinance. If you followed that story at all, Commissioner Smith.
The All About Puppies, ma'am, you own a store in Hillsborough, correct? So,
I don't, my grandmother does.
your grandmother,
Just to be clear.
so she's moved over to the adoption model that they're looking at, you're not shutting down?
The ordinance isn't.
Excuse me. Commissioner Smith, if you're going to ask her questions, could we have her go up to the microphone, please?
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
The Hillsborough County ordinance goes into effect this coming month.
You're not closing your store, is your grandmother moving over to an adoption model?
We will not be doing that, no.
So your grandmother's closing her store in Hillsborough?
I don't think there's very many other options. You can't survive on the supply and service model. There's way too many, there's too much competition in order to do that, especially with the business model that we have. And in regards to rescuing and or offering the adoption-based or service model, there's a lot of issues with that as well, because how do you know where that dog's coming from that rescue organization? There's been known to see that there's pet laundering schemes that are going on all over the country with stores in California that were buying dogs from 501c3s, but in reality they were coming from a breeder. Or there's been 1.08 million dogs that were imported from foreign countries from foreign puppy mills. Now we're just outsourcing dogs to other countries because we keep on banning these businesses, and we're not coming to much of a solution here.
Okay. And Mr. Zim, am I correct? The city of St. Petersburg did a complete ban?
They did, but they had no pet stores in their city.
Yes.
Oh, it didn't have any effect on any existing business.
Okay.
So I just want to be fair. It's not exactly the same.
I don't like the idea of I don't want to put anybody, I don't think we should move forward with this on helping that. I mean, if anything, I think Section 12 should be completely removed, sent back to staff, work with both groups and more with the Humane Society and get more of an opinion. I'm for an adoption model. I think it's the only way. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. And if this comes back as trying to keep them in this ordinance, I just can't support that. So, but if we remove Section 12, send it back to staff, give them more time, I agree Tallahassee probably is not going to do much. I mean, I don't count on them for very much. But who knows? I mean, Jordan's Law came through and they got that through. So at this time, I say remove Section 12, send it back to staff, have them work with more input that we've gotten from groups here, and I would be for complete ban, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
Well, I had a couple of comments, but I get the sense that we're going to see this again. First of all, let me state for the record that I am a big believer in the adoption model, as both of my granddogs are rescue dogs. And so I appreciate that. But I came here tonight prepared to support this ordinance or vote for it as written for many of the reasons that the Vice Mayor stated. I would much rather, and listen to Mr. Schofield's presentation, have some regulations, some regulatory responsibility that we can exercise over our responsible business owners in the city of Largo. And I am not inclined to wait for any miracle or something coming from on high in Tallahassee or any other government beyond the city of Largo. I'm not really interested in being ground zero for a national debate. I'm here, we are here to take care of our citizens and our businesses in this city. So I don't know what else to say. I think all the points have been made up here, but I would vote for this ordinance tonight. I would vote for it as worded, but I'm certainly willing to bring it back and hear some compromise positions on it.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you. I think I've made it clear over many years that I'm not a big fan of Tallahassee. However, there are two bills pending in Tallahassee that may preempt anything that we talk about here today. So, not that I'm going to ask them for their help, but they quite often make the decision to help us without our asking anyway. So I was just, my point was, let's see what they do up there. Very likely it will be nothing, and it'll be on us. In the meantime, that'll give us time to straighten this out, because obviously there are strong arguments on both sides, and we're trying to be fair to all parties. And that's what I would like to see us do. My point about consumer protection is a big point. If we are going to instruct stores to post notices that these puppies are coming from USDA licensed breeders, and that they are properly licensed in their states, and we know in advance that the USDA enforcement is minimal, and I'm being kind by calling it minimal. And the same thing by the state agencies that are licensing these, we're giving consumers a false impression that that these are coming from reputable breeders, and I don't like that, because I don't want to be in the business of giving consumers false impressions. So that's why I think we ought to go back and take a look at it. I asked earlier today if it's possible to simply delete Section 12, because the ordinance that we're looking at is not just about Section 12. It covers a lot of territory, and I was told that we can't do that, that it would have to go back to first reading, because this is a major section. I think what we would be looking at right now, and by the way, I'm okay, just to say that I can understand grandfathering in the two stores that are here, but I would not want to open the doors to other retail pet stores. I just don't want to do that, for a number of reasons that I won't go into here. So I do believe that probably the best thing to do right now is to deny the ordinance as it is, ask staff to go back and meet with all the parties and come back with something that we can all live with, and and support the businesses that are here. I think they're good people, but let's not open the door to any others.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I did just one. This is completely unrelated to the pet store part of this, but the fowls, 12 fowls, just to be clear, they still have to comply with our nuisance ordinances, and you just said a rooster, but it's possible for other fowls to be really loud, and
Yes, sir.
if that's a problem, we can still.
And that's, yes, sir, that new nuisance ordinance will allow us to do that now,
Okay.
which we don't have currently.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I did have one more hand raised on Zoom.
All right, let's see if we can hear it.
It's Jenna Jensen.
Yes, we can, Ms. Jensen, go ahead.
Great. I feel like I'm a little late to join the discussion, but you've all heard from me. I work on the Stop Puppy Mills campaign at the Humane Society of the United States. And I just wanted to clear up kind of a few things that has been discussed. The word hobby breeder has been thrown around, and I just want to kind of differentiate that from responsible breeder, because a hobby breeder, in my mind, is just somebody who doesn't meet the USDA licensure threshold. So they have less than 5 breeding females. That doesn't guarantee that they're in any way a good breeder just because they have less than 5 breeding females. What we see as a responsible breeder is they're breeders that do not sell to pet stores, and that's in their own code of ethics. They state that they would never sell their dogs to pet stores, to commercial establishments, or to wholesalers. And that's in their code of ethics. And the vast majority of dog breed clubs have that in their code of ethics. And that's one of the reasons why sourcing ordinances don't work, on top of all of the issues with the USDA, like minimal survival standards under the Animal Welfare Act, in addition to all of the problems with enforcement that have completely plummeted since they last audited themselves, and found that inspectors were regularly ignoring horrific suffering at dog breeding facilities. They were allowing breeders to continue to operate despite repeat violations, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to clear up a few of those things. And an ordinance that would prohibit the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores, those are not designed in any way to close a business. They are designed to have those stores shift to a humane business model. We've helped convert dozens of stores from selling commercially raised puppies to then working with local rescues and shelters in the area. We recently did a conversion with Super Pet. They used to sell commercially raised puppies and kittens. Now they work with local shelters and rescues, and they attribute their conversion to even having a higher success rate in their community. And to say that these stores cannot operate without selling puppies is a little tough to hear, considering the pet store industry is a $100 billion industry, which is dominated by products and services. So these stores could certainly thrive off of not selling puppies. Yeah, I'll stop talking if anyone has any questions. I'm here to help address those.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the commission? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to amend ordinance number 2021-31 by amending section 6 to replace the word chicken with the word fowl. That's the big one.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on chicken versus fowl?
I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
And I may have missed it in reading the ordinance. We have a definition of what a fowl is. I mean, are ostriches and emus fowl, or peacocks?
We definitely have a definition of what a fowl is. Peacocks and ostriches and things like that don't fall into that definition.
That's good to hear. All right, thank you.
Commissioner, it's on the second page of the ordinance towards the top. There's a definition of fowl.
Okay.
So would the proper process be, if we want this to come back with some of the discussions, or, some of the things that we've had today, would that be the proper way to just, Alan, sorry.
Yeah, so I think you have a couple options depending upon what, there's been various ideas put out. So first of all, if you want to do what you mentioned, which is to essentially grandfather in the existing 2 pet stores and adopt the remaining regulations that don't relate to those pet stores, you could adopt the ordinance as is, and then if you want us to go back and come back with an ordinance that would prohibit any new pet stores, which is, what you had said, you could direct us to do that. We'll have to run that ordinance by the county and then bring it back to you. So that's one option. The other option is we could go back to, as Commissioner Gerard said, we could pull out the section on pet stores and the sale of puppies. We could pull that out of the ordinance. That is a substantive change, so we would be back at first reading. So you could amend the ordinance, pull that out, then move to adopt the ordinance on first reading. And then we could adopt the ordinance on second reading, and separately we could work on a new animal ordinance that would relate solely to the sale of puppies at the pet stores, and bring that out as a separate ordinance. I think those are, or third, obviously you could just continue the entire ordinance and send us back to the drawing board.
So in your second option, that future ordinance could both regulate the existing stores and ban future stores in one ordinance.
Right.
So,
But I didn't hear any comment about all of the other sections of the ordinance. So if you want to go ahead and
Talked about
adopt
chickens a little
those. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm just, the rest of non-controversial
Right.
and straightforward. We did have some discussion about fowl. But that was it.
Yes. But I mean, I didn't hear any complaints from that.
Oh, no, I didn't get any public comment on backyard chickens either.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, does that answer your question, Vice Mayor?
Yes, it does. So,
So I do have a motion and a second on the floor to change chicken to fowl. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And if we are to pass this ordinance with section 12 removed, it would be on first reading.
Right. So if you want to do that, the motion would be to adopt the ordinance, but amending it to remove section 12, and you would move to adopt the ordinance on first reading as amended.
but we could approve the amendment or the ordinance as is, and then come back another time with another ordinance to ban any new pets, well, not pet stores, yeah, essentially pet stores,
Yeah, any store selling
selling commercially bred.
puppies. Yep.
Okay, so wait, I'm getting like lost here. I just want to make sure. So if we pass this the way it is, what does that do to the stores that are existing right now?
They would just have to comply with
They would
this
have-
ordinance.
They would just have to comply with this ordinance. It wouldn't put them out of business. They would
Correct.
still operate. And then in another time, we would,
Right, we would ask Tracy and Alan to work on, drafting a new ordinance to prevent any new
new.
quote-unquote pet stores.
Because currently, right now, you have, besides what we've already discussed, the city doesn't have really any oversight in any of this. So if we take this out or don't approve it tonight, then we'll stay exactly the way we've been in the beginning. But if we passed it tonight, you would have some regulation, and then if you direct staff and city attorney's office will present something, bring something back to you after working with all the partners that we've talked about tonight.
As well as the county.
And I think staff would also like if you're going to pass the ordinance as is, if you could give us some direction on allowing the 2 existing stores to sell dogs that they receive from hobby breeders. Because if your direction is to bring back another amendment that provides for a definition of hobby breeders and allow them to sell dogs from hobby breeders, we'll go ahead and, we can enforce the ordinance in that way and certainly not cite anybody if they're selling dogs from hobby breeders, but we'll have to come back with that definition. So we would want your direction on that. That doesn't have to be part of the motion, but I wanted to
Okay.
remind you that was an issue that we would need to address if you want us to.
Got it.
It would be my preference to pull out that whole section and bring it back with a discussion of a ban and then regulations for the existing grandfathered businesses, including perhaps any reasonable legislation that would enhance the chances that all these dogs are coming from reputable breeders or responsible breeders or whatever the terms are, rather than passing the ordinance tonight and then maybe wanting to edit that ordinance in the future with the ban. I think it would make sense, and including the hobby breeders if the pet stores are getting them from local breeders, which seems to be pretty desirable anyways as a consumer. So I would recommend pulling out the whole section 12 and then passing it on first reading, bring back an ordinance that would address all of it.
Yes.
Well, then I move to adopt ordinance number 2021-31 with section 12 removed as amended because of the chickens, and bring it back for a second reading.
And that date would be the first meeting in February, and I don't know the day of that.
February 2nd.
February 2nd, for a second reading on February 2nd.
Bring it back for second reading on February 2nd. Or, yeah, first reading. First reading on February 2nd.
So today would be,
Today would be first reading.
Today's the
Today would
first
be
reading.
first reading. We'll have to advertise, we'll have to revise the ordinance and the title and then have it advertised again.
the
For
second
second
reading
reading.
would be February 2nd.
Correct.
Okay, second reading, February 2nd.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Smith?
I would like to recognize the over 70 people who wrote into the commission about this item. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And look forward to more input, I'm sure.
I'm sure that.
So I do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, and thank you for everybody that's here tonight. It's the most people we've had since March of last year. Kind of fun. And I hope that, I know that we'll continue, as was stated today, the reason that we started this conversation over a year ago was for the best interest of the dogs and our residents and the consumers here in the city. So we'll continue to work towards a successful and a good ordinance, and it might take a little bit longer, but we're happy to do that. Please, go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you have to come here?
I'd like, yeah, please.
Is there any way that we could have a roundtable discussion? Is that something that we could do? They did do that in, I believe, Collier County, where they invited representatives from Humane Society, all the different organizations, if that's what the direction is that you guys are trying to go in.
Yeah.
Could it
Thank
be
you.
something where we're all present?
Yes, thank you. And I think from an elected official standpoint, we couldn't all be as a part of that roundtable, but somebody from this commission could be on the roundtable, and we can discuss that amongst ourselves, and staff and people from SPCA and the Humane Society and the pet stores, and kind of get our heads together and say, and even residents and Georgia.
Right.
Georgia came out of that door over there.
Yeah.
People that are concerned, and I think that we could work together and for the betterment of our city. So
Thank you. That answers
Leave
my-
Tallahassee out of it.
Yeah, oh my God. That's so nice.
And Mr. Mayor, my only question about that is with the roundtable is, I don't want to be flooded with, like I said, 70 people with one-sided. My concern with the roundtable, I want it to be the sides giving us the best information we can get that comes to that roundtable.
yeah.
I mean, I'm all for the information from the residents that give into Tracy, but I want you to, with your group or staff or whoever elected you chose to be with that dedicated group that gets the best information out of there that can come to
With the
us.
blessing of this commission, I'll talk to Tracy and the city manager and kind of put our heads together as far as what that group would consist of, and I'll bring it back and talk to you guys, and then we'll sit
So
down.
blessed.
Perfect.
Thank you. Item number 12. And thank you all for staying here. You don't have to leave, but you can.
We'll try to get through this one a little quicker.
We got all night.
Me too.
Thank you.
Again, this is Resolution 2288, amending Resolution 2179 to modify the manner and type of code cases to be heard by the special magistrate. In December 2016, the City Commission, as part of the Public Safety Plan, authorized a special magistrate process and appointed a special magistrate to hear certain code violations. In January 2017, the City Commission reviewed and approved Resolution 2179, which defined the type of cases to be heard by the special magistrate. Chapter 9, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinance establishes the special magistrate qualifications and procedures. The staff is requesting City Commission approval of Resolution 2288 to amend Resolution 2179 to better define the specific type of cases that may be heard by either the special magistrate or the municipal code enforcement board. The special magistrate will be used to hear certain violations of both the Code of Ordinances and the Comprehensive Development Code, and violations concerning certain building without permit cases. The Municipal Code Enforcement Board will continue to hear all cases concerning 1- and 2-family residential properties, including violations of building without permit cases. The Development Control Officer or his or her designee will also continue to be authorized to refer certain cases to the special magistrate based upon the complexity or specialized nature of a case. So in easier terms, what this is the special magistrate currently handles everything work without permits. Doesn't matter if it's residential or commercial. And probably that was appropriate in 2016, 17, where we were trying to figure out what the special magistrate was going to handle. 3 years down the road now, we think we've got a pretty clear understanding of how these cases are being worked on and looked at. And we think it's appropriate that the work without permit cases that are being done on a residential properties, which is what the code board is already doing, they should hear those as well. So what we're basically asking to do is let the code board handle anything residential, single family, and let the special magistrate handle the commercial properties or complex, or some of the other more complex cases that we do run into on occasion. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Resolution number 2288, a resolution of the City of Largo, Florida, amending Resolution 2179 by amending the types of cases to be heard by the special magistrate and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
I have no cards.
Any questions?
Anybody on Zoom?
Move to approve resolution number 2288.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
There you go, Trace. That was a little easier.
Next up, item number 14. Ordinance number 2021-35.
There it is.
I was stalling. Yeah.
This ordinance is an amendment to the police officer firefighter retirement plan ordinance to incorporate changes in federal law related to pension plan administration. The ordinance does not increase cost of the plan, does not affect the city's contribution to the plan, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Ordinance number 2021-35, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the City of Largo Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Plan adopted pursuant to Ordinance number 2016-42 as subsequently amended by Ordinances 2017-34, 2018-33, and 2019-73 by amending Section 6, parentheses 6, required distribution date, by amending Section 10, parentheses 5E regarding limitations on retirement income payments, by amending Section 16, parentheses 2A and B regarding minimum distribution of benefits, by amending Section 17, parentheses 3 miscellaneous provisions, by amending Section 29, parentheses 4D regarding required distribution of drop account, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
I have no public comment. Let me see. No.
Any questions from the commission?
I move to approve ordinance number 2021-35 on first reading and schedule a second and final reading on February 2nd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Zimmett, do you have anything this evening?
Yes, I have one thing tonight. Would like to request that the commission schedule a shade meeting on the matter of Tampa Bay water keepers et al. Versus City of Largo. This is a matter that is in litigation in federal court, and we would request an hour of your time before next meeting, which would put us at 5 o'clock on February 2nd, to have a briefing and talking about some settlement negotiations that we've been involved with in that case. So if I have your consensus, we'll go ahead and schedule it for the 5th, for the 2nd at 5 p.m. and notice the meeting, and it'll probably be in the community room so we can properly socially distance.
Understood.
So if that's okay with everybody?
Looks like it is.
Okay, very good.
Thank
Thank you very much. That's all I have tonight.
Commissioner Finger?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to all the city staff that's been doing such a wonderful job during this COVID outbreak, working hard and being consistent and faithful to the city and to the community. And I want to especially identify the library staff that is customer facing every day dealing with these issues and working hard, and just want to say thank you to them. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Robbins.
Just real quick, I had the opportunity today to speak to the Pinellas County Legislative Delegation meeting, or at the meeting. Just real briefly, it was, 2 minutes. I think Commissioner Carroll has spoke to them before in some of their meetings, but had an opportunity also, made sure that they had a copy of our legislative priorities for this year, and it'll be a little different, whatever session looks like this year, but looking forward to continuing to work with them and build our relationships, and hopefully not get completely hosed by them this year. So, in my professional opinion, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Holt.
Just a special thanks to Tracy Schofield for putting up with us these last couple meetings. You've done a tremendous job, you and your staff, and thank you for being wonderful to us. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
Just an observation that ordinance on, that we're talking about tonight is coming back to us on Groundhog Day. Other than that, I have nothing.
We don't have any regulations on groundhogs.
We will when we get that back.
Don't tell Tracy.
Commissioner Smith.
Just a little from this Saturday, I was got the opportunity to go out and do a cleanup in the Ridgecrest area with the Friends of Ridgecrest, and they did an awesome job. And I think they had like 25 people that were just at the cleanup. I wasn't able to get out to the beautification of the building at the Jim Dyson building. But I from the photos I've seen, there was a great amount of people, and I believe our new one of our new board members on the library board brought out his he's a coach. I just drew a blank on his name, but what's his name?
Yeah, Gaucher.
He brought out all the
Garius Gaucher.
Garius. He brought out a whole bunch of the kids from the high school and had them out there helping clean up. So that was a cool thing to see them out there working and cleaning up and helping out the Ridgecrest community, and that was really nice. Also, at our Forward Pinellas meeting, I'm going to have Gloria send out a list. Florida Department of Transportation put out their list of cuts that are going to be coming. They took, they said $1 billion cut this session. So they did take out some of our program, not our programs, but the county. We took a big whack. So I'll have Gloria send out the list of what was hit and what we did. The secretary was able to keep in there to a point. Commissioner Long made a really strong comment, which we sent a letter to the delegation about, or I think it was the delegation. No, it was to the DOT about why we felt we deserved this at this time. We waited behind. We became a region that worked together in partnership, and it was our time to get this funding. And yes, he took a whack, but some of those other places didn't. So I'll have Gloria in the list, and if you have any questions about those programs, I'll have myself or Whit get with you about any projects you have concerns about.
Can I ask a real quick question about that? One of the projects, I believe, was the West Shore Interchange on 275, correct? Yeah. So I've heard that there might be some money coming back for that particular project because it's going to it's going to delay the end result of the 275 or Howard Franklin widening, because they're going to bottleneck it back down into 2 lanes if that doesn't get completed. Right. So I believe, and I think I've heard from the FDOT secretary today actually that he's trying to get some of that money back, specifically for that project.
Okay.
So. And I think Whit even mentions it something about some of the projects that were cut were they were able to
shift around.
They
kind of pushed them out into the next budget.
Right. I mean, I think they're still all going to get done, but that one is probably the most important.
Correct.
Because it delays that interchange by another 2 years after the Howard Franklin Bridge is completed, if I'm correct.
Yeah, yes, and I'm sorry I said cut out. I meant push out. Sorry, I should have used a better word than that. And also at that meeting, They put me on the legislative committee for Ford Pinellas, and also I was kind of behind the 8 ball when they were doing the nominations, but I'll be on the next agenda, and they're going to put me on as the second alternative to the MPO AC for the state.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you all for a nice, lively discussion tonight. I think that we all kind of want to do what's best, and sometimes we have different ideas of that, and we have good discussions about it, and it's good to do that. Not all city commissions or councils in this area are able to have good, healthy conversations and discussions like we are. So thank you. And then my other thing was go Bucks.
That's right.
Found this upstairs when I was getting the coffee.
By the way, we have an inauguration tomorrow.
We do,
Yeah,
yes,
so,
we do.
peaceful transfer of power.
Mr. Schubert.
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to explain why we took item 13 off the agenda this evening. We are still in discussions with that final property owner in the 400 block of West Bay Drive regarding the specific language in the purchase and sales agreement that's related to how the leases with the 3 existing tenants are addressed. So we were hopeful that we could have a signed agreement by the meeting this evening. Obviously, that didn't happen. So our new goal is the meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
All right, any action items?
I did not record any.
Mayor Brown, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just real quick, also thank you to the staff that did the Shred Fest this weekend. They were as amazing as always, and I think it was a really good turnout also. Thank you. That's it, sorry.
That's all right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.